it on Wednesday.
It is Aaron Sorkin. No matter what he does, you're going to be on board. So
I'm going to tell you this right now. I have a huge and a new appreciation for Olivia Munn.
Yeah, she shines
her
in that
acting
show.
in that season one. I've only seen season one of The Newsroom. I watched the first 10 episodes in the last 4 days. I got to say, phenomenal. I was completely shocked to shit because my frame of reference was
Right
show. Attack show. No. And then a couple other movies and where she was minor roles, especially in Iron Man 2, I think it was. And then
a cameo, not a minor role.
And then
the
Predators. The Predators. And that as the I was like, oh my God. She's the Denise Richards of the Bond universe.
when was she in Iron Man 2?
She was a reporter that has one cameo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like why you doing this? Yeah.
It's not even counts as anything.
But else. I remember they announced her. It's like, oh, Olivia Munn starring in Iron Man 2. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. No, not really.
Yeah, Leslie Bibb has a more integral role in that movie. So in Iron Man 1 and 2 or whatever. So
yeah,
it's what it is, and she shows up more. Anyways, welcome everyone to the Heroes World Quarantine Podcast. I'm your host, Stu Pei. With me, as always, is one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World, located in Markham, Ontario. That is John Ho. Say hello.
Hello, howdy, folks.
And of course, with our resident Prince of Mischief, variant 188999176, Mr. Rob Gaudet.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Well, it's morning for us. It's gonna be evening for you guys.
Whatever this transpires, it could be in the morning when people watch this.
Hey, can I just say that Markham's own not Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's the astrophysicist, Andre deGrasse. He actually, I just finished. If you haven't watched Olympics, just mute me for 5 seconds. He just won bronze. There we go. So I just wanted to
in the 100.
Yes, yeah, I did just right before we started recording. So that's nice. It gives an indication to those how early we get up to do this for you.
Yep. Anyways, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to conclude our review of the second part of Batman: The Long Halloween. This is seems like forever and a day ago that we reviewed the first part. Rob can't even remember it. And now here we are, part 2 of this DC film. It's different than the rest of the canon in terms of all the DC films. It's a little different. This, of course, is based off of Jeff Loeb, and I believe it is Tim Sale's comic book from 1995, 96, 97. And it goes through the story of Batman through a full year, thus the Long Halloween. So if you haven't seen the first part, we're going to go full into spoilers because why would you watch part 2 if you haven't watched part 1? That makes no sense. You have no idea what's going on. So we're going to jump completely through it and give our total review and not hold back because, like I said before, here we go.
This is also not safe for kids. If you have kids in the room, you may not want to have them hanging out and watching this review with us because
Rob's going to unleash the Kraken.
There may be a couple F-bombs being dropped.
Rob is going to be our Roy Effin Kent. That's all we need to know. It's a gem. Just those of you who have not watched Ted Lasso, please do. It is great. And Rob is saving season 2 like a bottle of fine wine. And I am just saying, gimme. Roy Effin Kent. All right. John, give us your thoughts. What did you think of part 2? Did it even percolate still after watching the first movie? Did anything transpire? Did you remember anything? It's been a month.
Literally nothing stuck from the first one, unfortunately. And I have to prelude this with a caveat that I am not a DC animation guy. I haven't really been following a lot of their projects ever since the golden day of it. The Justice League Unlimited.
Basically, when you were a kid and you had time to watch it.
Yeah. Maybe you didn't have other options or something like that. But I don't know who this is aimed at. Like, I don't know how deep you want us to go, Stu, but like
this is one of the greatest
this cookie cutter,
like one of the greatest Batman stories ever written. And they're like, why wouldn't this be a great movie? The Dark Knights basically stole half the plot line, so let's keep on going.
Yeah. I think we're going to get into it. It was released back in 1996, the original comic, 13-issue maxi series, they called it. One of the first of, I think, that style back then. Usually you'd only got 4 issues, 5 issues. This one was like a year running of this Batman book. And you kind of like, I'll save some things for the things otherwise I'm going to be sparse on the list of stuff that you do. But yeah, I think my overall thoughts are this cookie cutter animation is not cutting it. You know, and the fact that the backgrounds, you know, they're beautifully like painted, but there's a disconnect, right? I feel like the actors, I guess you would call it, or the characters are just kind of moving around in front of this, and they can't really interact with like things like in the background. Like they purposefully do it. Like I think there's one point where Two-Face throws a guy's head into a car, and the car doesn't really move or anything. It doesn't really kind of react to getting hit. So it's really weird, but it is nice animation. And this type of formula works well for Archer and things like that. But I think it's because it's more comedic in style. I don't know what it is about this, but for some reason the animation didn't get me, although it does look good. It looks good, but for some reason, like even the fight scenes, like Catwoman had some really good choreography, but it just, everything looks like it's just in a foggy, I don't know, animation. Like it looks like there's a haze over everything, so you can't really see everything that's going on. And then the storyline, I think the way they tell the story, I feel like this is a little bit more true to the comic than a lot of the other things that they've done. But the way they tell the issues, you can jump through time, issue 8 to issue 9 to issue 10, because you know a month has passed and you're reading a new issue, and then all you need is the title page to show you the passage of time. But for this one, it doesn't work. You're like, how much time has passed? Like it opens with Batman having been controlled by Poison Ivy for 3 months, I think they say. And you're just like, what? And you're like, what was Harvey Dent and Commissioner Gordon doing when Bruce Wayne and Batman were both gone?
Just
for like
turning on the light,
months?
John. Just turning on the light.
Yeah, they were literally just doing their own thing, and they're trying to solve these murders and stuff like that. I know a lot of people give it props for setting up the mystery that you can figure it out yourself. But is that a good idea for storytelling? You know what I mean? Like to tell a story to make sure that your audience can figure it out on their own? Or do you want to tell a good story where you see the motivation behind why the characters are doing what they're doing, instead of just trying to like, drop a little hint here and there? They can figure it out right at the end, you know? It's weird.
It's interesting you bring that point, John, because there are those who believe that a movie should basically handhold you from beginning to the end, that they need exposition and tell you everything. But then there are
I feel like I'm not taking a test to be a police detective, right? And I'm not trying to.
There are other movies
together,
that don't do that, and like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy doesn't tell you anything because it's so dense. But people love that movie because it's just like, if you know what the circus is and you know, it rewards you for knowing. Just like the Green Knight. If I you know what you know about the Green Knight, you don't need to know. Like they could just do a whole data dump of like, this is King Arthur and this is Morgana Le Fay. It's like, no, this is just a medieval knight story and happens to be in King Arthur's court. Right. So it does not really hold your hand. It expects you to know who these characters are, and like there's no like, oh my god, it's Poison Ivy. She just shows up. Oh my god, it's the Joker. It's like he just shows up. So there is something to say about rewarding you for secondhand knowledge, but at the same time as deep diving
the whole overall story of creating a mystery and like leaving enough of it out that people can solve it themselves. I don't know. I feel like that's not the greatest idea, but you know what? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a genre that people like to watch. Like I would rather play that in like a board game, you know, like a consulting detective, or you know, one of those
video game, like
where you're like
Arkham Knight.
This is my intention. Is as I'm supposed to solve this. You know, right, but this was something I was trying to you know, I had to fire this up a couple different times to really get it going. So apologies to anyone who really did like this, but for some reason it just did not fire for me. And I guess we'll get to whether we recommend it and ratings and all that kind of stuff after. So those are my initial thoughts.
Rob, what are your thoughts?
Fuck this movie. Okay. Here's the thing. And you know what? I tried to think to myself, and I said this a number of podcasts a number of months ago, I don't want to be crapping on people's work, the hard work that they've put into things. Like, you know, your mama said, if you have nothing nice, don't say anything at all. The problem is that I have a real difficult time objectively reviewing this movie without thinking that it's just a giant pant load. John hit a lot of the points that I was going to make, and I'm glad he mentioned it. I had mentioned during the first part 1 review that when this fired up, part 1 fired up, I thought, oh, it's like Archer. I kind of you almost have it instinctively assuming it's going to be funny, right? Because of the animation style, and then you realize it's not. Excuse me. So I wasn't a big fan of part 1. Needless to say, I'm not a big fan of part 2. I don't even know which one is better. I just like John, it took me a few times to get through it.
I think part 1 was better for us overall. So
maybe.
I think part 2 is better.
You think so? Oh.
Yeah.
I think part 2 moves a little bit more quickly than what part.
There
part
are
1
at
did.
least action sequences in this one, and the first one was just so like detective-y, and you're like,
yeah, it was
oh,
more story driven as opposed
very
to
like world building, lot of ground laying, lot of like here's what's going on, and it's very slow, and then second is like the second, third act is basically like action, where the payoff of just the very slowness of it. But yes, Rob.
So you know what? I was gonna be dropping F-bombs. I dropped the one. I'm not gonna do anymore because because John's made me feel a little bit more balanced on this whole thing. Here's what I'm gonna say. Some storylines are not meant to be translated as close to the source material as possible. Some comic book storylines, even if you have 13 issues, are not meant to be stretched over 2 different parts. The death and return of Superman storyline, which we've talked about a few times, it was over 2 different movies because there was it's a whole lot as a data dump of information.
Yeah, that split makes sense.
Made sense. This doesn't make sense. This is kind of like, for those who remember a number of years ago when the last Harry Potter movie, they divided that last book into 2 movies. It made no, like, why are you doing that? You're stretching it out for money's sake. The same with the last Hunger Games. There's only 3 books that made 4 movies. Why? Because they made that third book into 2 movies. You're not doing the source material justice when you purposefully do this type of stuff. This storyline also, and as much as Stu was at the top that the Dark Knight, a lot of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight took a lot of the elements out of this the source material and put it into that movie. They took probably the best parts of it. This doesn't need to be translated, I guess is what I'm saying, is that this story lives best in its written form, and there was no need or requirement to then translate it into animated form into a movie, especially one that will now sit at just over 3 hours and 10 minutes in total. There's no need for it. It's just,
Solomon Grundy would have been great in the Nolan film, just a big dude punching people in the face.
Well, that's when we got Bane. What are you doing, Mr. Wayne?
Yeah, but less just born on a Monday conversation.
Right.
This is great.
I had a problem overall with it's boring. Let's just call it what it is. Even though this is faster paced than what part 1 was, it's boring as all hell. It is not an entertaining movie. And John sent me a couple of text messages last night because we were looking at certain reviewers of websites that we frequent, gaming movie websites, that were giving it like 9 out of 10. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. So if you're watching this and thinking that I'm out to lunch, potentially, I'm very happy that you have watched this and you've enjoyed it. I'm glad that you waited for part 2. Financially speaking, buy the 2-pack as opposed to the 2 volumes individually, because it doesn't make any sense if you were looking at purchasing it, whether it's physical or digital. I don't get it. I didn't enjoy it. I'm going to say, I actually kind of think for me, this somewhat sullies the source material a little bit. Like, I have now, for me, no desire to jump back into The Long Halloween to read the book to be comparative to this. And that's not a good thing. That being said, if you have not read the book, I would suggest you actually avoid these movies and check out the book. And they have a lot of different editions that you can go and get. I think it's a great story. I think the story in its comic book form the pace moves as it's supposed to. You cannot translate that pace into animated storytelling or even into a movie per se. Think about it this way. If they were to make the Robert Pattinson movie, The Long Halloween, it wouldn't be part 1, part 2. Although Warner Bros. Would probably want to do that. It'd only be like an hour and a half, 2 hour max movie, maybe 2.5 if Nolan was directing it. you can't do this in animated form. It can't be beat for beat.
So I hear the ring of Dennis Villeneuve saying, you know, I can take a book and make it into two, and I'm gonna later when we play this again, we're gonna redact, and instead of this, it'll be like Dune, and Rob's gonna be like, this is so long. Why does it have to be 2 movies? Dune. It's like, oh my god, this movie's a waste. Dune. So let's all remember this conversation because there's.
Well, yeah, but that's a book. See, that's the problem, though. You have.
No, but
Because when you're but translating a fictionalized like a story or prose into a movie, you know, there's a lot. There's a lot of data dump that you're getting rid of. A lot of that information, a lot of that exposition is then translated into visual medium. But when you're taking an already existing visual medium and then trying to translate that into a moving visual medium, it doesn't always work. And in my opinion, this movie does not work.
We're gonna put this to the test. I think it's just because it's animation. Maybe it was live action and it was actually Jensen Ackles. You'd be all right, because this is the movie, as we talked about before. This comic was made in 1995, and 1995 was a time where movies, when it came to dramas, were very slow driven, very narrative written. So it's like this is of the time of 1995, 96. Mm-hmm. So whether the movies like Seven or these slow movies that came out during that time frame, this is what it is. This is why people didn't love Blade Runner, because it was too slow. I love Blade Runner. I love both of them, but it's very slow. So again, it's a very to your point, it's an acquired taste, but you need to enjoy, you know, this type of slow-paced story, because unlike Fast 9, where they just go fast all the time and just pass through things and just throw another action sequence at you, don't worry about it. We'll just fast forward this whole scene with another car chase. You know, this is the extreme other side of it, where it's building up plot lines and narratives, and the slow build of having that scene where Harvey Dent is just chatting with Grundy. Was it required? Nope. But
let me just say this though, but I do respect the filmmakers for doing that. Like, and this is the juxtaposition. It's like, I didn't enjoy it, but I respected the filmmakers say, you know what, we're going to adhere to that source material because we think it's important. Good for them. Look at what Zack Snyder did with The Watchmen. Like, aside from the ending, that is a page to panel to screen adaptation, whether you like it or not. You got to respect the fact that he respected the source material so much that he did it. I just don't think that you can't translate everything like that.
Like, you look at 1996, I was just checking, like Mission Impossible 1 came out in 1996.
Sure. Brian De Palma, another story-driven movie, really.
And then that, if you think about Mission Impossible 6 or Mission Impossible 7 compared to Mission Impossible 1, they're completely different movies. I remember coming out of the theater, Mission Impossible 1, I think, going, wow, that was such an great movie. Like, wow, the set pieces was like really cool. Like, they had the one basic set piece was the helicopter thing on the train. That was the big thing. Now in Mission Impossible, that's the first set piece, which is the helicopter. Like, when Tom Cruise runs across a building, it's like, oh, that's the beginning of the movie, not the end of the movie. So this is just showing us the difference between, you know, the time period now compared to then. So John, what did you like most about this movie then? You talked about your so-so on it, but what did you like the most? What was the thing?
So it's tough. So I held one thing back, and it was the intro. They showed like panels from the comic, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I remember the art style. Mm-hmm. So that's where this, I'll say it one more time, the cookie cutter animation doesn't work, because if this was done, I guess back in the day when they were kind of like trying different things, you would have maybe got a different style for this animation or whatever. But seeing those panels and stuff, I was like, oh wow, those look really good. And then we end up with the same kind of like generic looking.
Isn't this the same thing what He-Man did? It's like, oh, we're gonna show you the beginning with all these toys and whatever. And it's like, okay, now we're gonna give you something.
Yeah. It's almost like what Revelation did. They showed all these. I guess the He-Man animation style is a little bit more fresh and dynamic. We're talking about Masters of the Universe Revelations for a second.
Yep.
But for some reason, this one, like after seeing those really beautiful, I think it's who does the original art, Tim Sale or.
Yep, Tim Sale.
Yeah. After seeing those original panels and all those character designs and how different they looked, you're like, oh wow, I don't know about this, right? But I think the one other thing I really like, I think I did like, and we're gonna get into it with acting performances. Katie Sackhoff as Poison Ivy. I kind of, for some reason, I really dug that. But
I think you thought she was hot.
Yeah,
I think you have a Battlestar Galactica thing. But we're gonna go on. What did you not like, John? Tell me your things you
Man,
hated?
I was trying to like pinpoint exactly what it was.
Because you've already talked about acting performances. The standout for you is Katie Stackhoff.
Yeah, so it's just some of the just the passage of time. It feels like when they would jump around, there was no really sense of like things were advancing or this was the next day or whatever. In some extra lines, I don't know. I can't even like. I was trying to pinpoint exactly some of the dialogue, like when Catwoman and Batman are on the roof and they start making out and stuff like that. Some of those things I was like, I don't know about this. And then yeah, just the
Keep my cartoon porn to Fritz the cat, please.
yeah. Like I don't know. I'm like I don't know. This is weird. This is animated. And then maybe I'll say Bruce Wayne's design. He looked a little too pale, and the thing on his eye was weird. I don't know.
He's a dude that only goes out at night. How do you think he's gonna get gym?
Yeah, there's no vitamin D happening.
Yeah, it was just a little bit unnerving.
All right. Well, Rob, what did you hate? What did you not like?
Oh, I thought I was gonna do what I liked first. Okay. What did I hate in the movie?
Okay, what did you like then?
Then what did you like? Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's interesting. I'll do like my first of all, the voice cast. Actually, I appreciated the voice cast more in this movie, this part, than I did in the first one. I thought that
I forgot it was Jensen Ackles for a second. Yeah.
Yes, so did I. Naya Rivera did a fantastic job as Catwoman because she had a lot more dialogue in this movie, like a lot more comparative to what she was in the first movie. And obviously she tragically passed
the
away.
Catwoman overall was, I think, better in this.
Yep.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her presence in it. And you're right, Jensen Ackles, for me, I kind of forgot that he was. I mean, you see the credits rolling at the beginning, as John was saying with the Tim Sale art, and you see I'm like, but then I actually kind of like forgot as I was watching it, and I was like, I appreciated his Batman a lot more than his Bruce Wayne. I thought that Billy Burke as Commissioner Gordon, too soft for Commissioner Gordon, to be honest with you. In my opinion, I thought it didn't match the mustachioed character we're seeing. So I did like the voice casting, Billy Burke aside. I did like there was a scene where the Mad Hatter and Scarecrow have got Batman, and they got a whole bunch of stuff tied. I think it was money or whatever it was, tied up or bodies into the back of that wagon, and they're going up, and all of a sudden Batman they turn around and they say, "Oh, he's an extra," and they look around and he's gone, and all of a sudden he punches Mad Hatter in the face, and I was like, wicked punch. So
I think he's about to swear too. He's like about to swear, and then Batman's fist connects with him right before he swears. And I think they do that a bunch of times. Yeah. A character is like about to swear, and then they get
shout out to John DiMaggio, voice of Bender, as always.
Yeah,
just crushing it as always.
But that being said, I like the art style of Scarecrow. I thought it was pretty cool. I just found him really slow and boring. Like, it's Robin Atkin Downes is the voice of Scarecrow. I'm not familiar with his work, but I just found whatever direction he was given, it was just really drawn out. I was like, oh, just get on with it, bro. Like, it was.
Is there a point where he holds up like the severed Martha Wayne's head or something? Is that what he does to mess with Batman?
I think it was just the dream or the
it was a bag, but it turned into like the head of his.
It turned into the I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Because Batman takes off his mask in that dream scene while he's having the hallucination, and you can see he's got stitches over his mouth.
Yeah.
But they didn't. His mouth wasn't firmly closed, and I was like, well, what the hell is the point?
They just kind of like photoshopped it on almost.
Yeah. It seemed kind of silly.
To your point, Rob, it probably was really good in the medium in the comic, where like it looks really cool in the comic, but then when you put it into like a live action, you're like, oh yeah, you just have to then have the character move or do something else. It doesn't really fit.
I've played, and I'm sure maybe you guys have, and I know people maybe who are watching. We've played those Arkham games, right? And Scarecrow is an important part, throughout those games. You have those side missions with Scarecrow. He's terrifying in some of those, and what he does to Batman and the hallucinations that Batman has and everything else. But that doesn't translate well. Like, this version of Scarecrow wasn't scary. He was just really like, I was like, get on with it. Do like go up to 1.5 speed and get going. Make your big speech. So, yeah.
it's a thing. Okay. So you've
Oh
already.
wait, the one last thing. Sorry, I want to say, is that the scene once? Okay, so once what do you call it? Harvey Dent gets sprayed in the face with the acid, right? Which is almost a scene directly out of Batman Returns. No, not Batman Returns. Batman Forever. When the guy throws the acid at Tommy Lee Jones, like he's all up in bandages, and he was in bandages for like the rest of that movie. And I thought to myself, that's interesting because my first instinct was, wait, are we watching Hush now? Is this what's happening? Now you've got essentially two main.
I was like, it's the Mummy.
Where's Brendan Fraser? But I was like, you've got two main. You're now evoking another, well, Jeff Loeb, but another huge character in Batman's army of rogues. Maybe purposefully or shouldn't have been. But that was my first thing. I was like, you got now a good third of this movie is Harvey Dent in bandages, and he makes you feel like you're watching Hush as opposed to Two-Face. I think that was a problem.
Let's just fast forward and say big shout out to Josh Duhamel. He did a really good job in voice acting, especially once he got the Two-Face growl of voice.
Yes. Yeah.
He does a very good Two-Face voice, and he has the look. So if they ever need to do a live action, I don't mind Josh Duhamel. He could do it easily. Yeah. He's got the
I think the one scene where he meets up with the thugs and he's like talking with the guy. He's like, okay, and then he's like, oh, he wants to talk to you, and then that was a pretty cool sequence. Yeah,
honestly, he's better in this movie than Jupiter Legacy already. It's like 2 minutes of him even just bandaging, growling is better than everything he did as the Utopian. In Jupiter Legacy. So let's hope that he is able to revive his superhero career and he can go in the direction, because I'm sure the makeup for Two-Face would be much better than the old man makeup they're trying to do in Jupiter's Legacy anyways. John, what do you give this of a rating out of 10 of this part 2?
I've got to give it and the only reason it kind of goes this high is because I don't know if we're going to get into it, but it's the acting the voice talent.
Yeah.
So I would probably only give it like a 6 out of 10.
Rob?
I wish I remember what I gave the first one.
Probably a 6, probably as well.
No, I don't think I went that high. I think I might have gone like a 5, 4.5 to a 5. Just because I thought this one moved a little bit faster, and again, as John said, the voice acting and what I had said earlier.
So your answer is whatever your other one is +1.
+1. I'm going to give it a 6. I'll give it a 6.
Yeah. So if Rob actually gave it a 5.5, it's actually +1. So whatever it is, like a D&D thing, just add +1 to whatever.
Just go back to our first review and do the homework for me. I'm not going to do it for you.
This is a
slightly better than part 1 is what you're saying.
Rob went really big brain. He's like, guys, watch the old one and then let me know what that go back.
And then just add 1. Yeah.
And then let me know in the comments.
Shit, you gave it a 2, so this is only a 3. Oh, well.
But then if it's okay, so the game is under 4, give it a +2.
Right.
If it was 5 and above, give it a +1.
Give it +1. Yeah.
We'll give some.
And if I gave the first one an 8, subtract 5 from this one.
Wow, this is the journalism that you grew and loved, and what you want to know from us, as we forgot what already you guys have rated. I should have done a better job of going back and do that. What was we've talked about things you liked. What was the best moment of this movie, John?
I think it was that Two-Face scene that I mentioned, and you're like he tricks those thugs and is like hands in the phone, and even when he just picks up the phone in the hospital bed, he's like, I got to take this, and then he's kind of like, I guess he's kind of talking to himself. But yeah, I think I want to say I can't think of another scene that would. And unless we want to choose the ending, maybe that last frame.
Oh, you bastard!
Because it's over.
Rob,
I'm pretty sure that's Rob's answer. I was like, Rob's answer is probably going to say the end.
100%. I was waiting for Rob.
It's in my notes actually. I was the end, and then like Rob in brackets, and I was like, I know he's going to say the end
when it ended. Yeah,
the last second, because I was done with watching it.
Yeah, when Alfred had the candy and I knew it was over. It's like, thank God, the end. Rob, what was your favorite moment?
I was gonna say the end, but I was gonna quantify it though by saying not that last scene, but the actual like not the last scene with Alfred, when he goes, "Oh, it's for you," but when the kids come trick or treating and Bruce is there and he's got Catwoman with him and Alfred, he's
They're
talking
wearing
about
their
how
robes too. They're like,
they had just had sex, and
I don't know about that one. Maybe they were just pillow fight,
Lonely Island and
they're
Akon
tickling,
hugging, Rob, just hugging.
No, they were doing it, and they and he was saying like, I don't think I'm not making a difference. Like he's not. Like, don't forget this. For those who may not be familiar, this is like really early in Batman's like history, right? This is like his first year or second year, and he's questioning whether or not he's making a difference, whether he has an impact on the citizens of Gotham, and he's really questioning himself. Excuse me. And the doorbell rings, Halloween, and they open up, and it's a mom and a dad and their kid and their young son, and he's dressed as Batman. And that scene, I was like, okay, like I actually really enjoyed, seeing that and being like, you know what, that's really cool. I really appreciate that moment and seeing Bruce's face. And he's not like teary-eyed, he's not like sullen or happy or whatever. He's stoic. There's no facial expression, but you can infer the fact that he understands he is making an impact because he's becoming more than just, against the bad guys, so to speak. He's becoming a symbol for hope to other kids, and people are looking up to him. So,
and that's a big moment because I think that's the same family who saw him in Crime Alley. Like,
yes,
this weirdo?
yeah.
So, like, it went from a like,
and they're like, what's wrong with that guy? I don't care. Get out of here.
Yeah. Should we help him? Fuck no, let's get out.
I can imagine Rob walking with Noah in the street, and there's like Superman just lying on the street, like holding his head. He's like, oh, let's move away from this weirdo. And then all of a sudden, Noah's like,
let's look for a power ring.
Dressed up like for Halloween next year. You'd be like, that weirdo, the guy that was just, what is going on?
Yeah, I want to buy this costume. That isn't the guy we saw in the alleyway and we just walked off because he was crying.
You know what? I had a question for you guys. So I was thinking about this once the movie ended. I was thinking, and unfairly so, I think that we often judge a lot of these Batman properties to the animated series.
Yep.
And its tone and the way it looks and everything else. And I was thinking to myself, I said, if this was back in the day in the 90s, right, when that cartoon was on and they did 13 episodes, right, of this story, 13 episodes of The Long Halloween in that style, would I have appreciated and enjoyed it more? And I have to say, I think that the way that Bruce Timm and Paul Dini had crafted storylines and storytelling in that show, I would have loved. Like, I think that would have been half of a season storyline for the animated series. I would have loved to.
They tried doing it in the Gotham TV show, but I'd like to imagine that when you're saying self, you flip the coin first and be like, bloop.
I did.
Be like self. But it's one of those things where it's difficult because it's the John Carter of Mars syndrome. It's like John Carter. Let's not forget that movie that came out.
I've never seen it.
It's like
it's on my list on
really
Disney
good.
Plus.
It's really good. I like it.
It's actually decent. Andre was like, "Well, we should do a rewatch."
It's
actually,
good.
John Carter.
But the thing is, because it was written a time period where everyone's kind of taken the best ideas and cherry picked everything from it, it seems now like it's copying our old. And same with this storyline is that, Rob, to your point, if it came out on animation in 95, 96, like we would have it would be in the pantheon of, oh, this is the greatest Batman animated thing ever. It's on par with, if this movie was released in
like the Mask of the Phantasm type stuff,
we would be like, but the issue is there's so much competition that you have to elevate your game to make it
right.
Yep. And that's the unfortunate nature of it. It's that movies sometimes we talk about the other day when you sent me a thing about Empire Records and rewatching it. You're like, yep, still holds up. I'm like, does it? But some things hold up really well and some things don't. And that's the nature of movies and media. It's like some of it will hold up the test of time and some of it will just, you can't rewatch it because
I was wondering if because I really clearly remember those Two-Face episodes from the animated series.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like in my mind, I haven't rewatched it. So I feel like they did a better job selling the whole conflict between Harvey. For this one, I feel like all of a sudden he just turned into Two-Face and the Two-Face personality shows up. I feel like it was more prevalent in the animated series. So a lot of character changes happen in this where I feel like the lead up, I didn't really feel like Harvey Dent was struggling because I think the whole idea is he wants to shut this case down and maybe he can live a normal life with his wife and stuff like that. Or I don't know. Remember if that was one of the storylines from the original Long Halloween, or if I just made that up, or no, I think that was the original storyline for the wife's motivation was to help Harvey finish this so they could live a normal life.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
like that.
that's correct. Yeah,
But I didn't feel any of that. I didn't feel like there was a journey and a struggle. All of a sudden, he just kind of became Two-Face and started flipping a coin.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird.
this one at least, you know, the wife at least from this one, it's like I made you lunch, and like there are little things of like I love you, and I'm here, like, and you could just feel like she's scored, like, oh
Yeah.
man, Harvey, like you're not even taking her lunch. You didn't even say thank you for the lunch. Like, where are you, bro? So it's one of those things where you're like, oh, maybe he's a jerk, and I don't understand why she loves him as much. He's like, I get you have stress, but I would think that if your spouse was to make you something, you'd still thank them. And like,
Well,
like
I
just-
would
he
have
was so
if
conflicted. But yeah,
unless Harvey's wife was voiced by Fergie. I didn't pick up any. People don't understand. Fergie and Josh Duhamel were married. All right, forget it. I guess that joke landed.
Sorry, that's
we're past tense. Past
Were,
tense.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump into this as we finish. You brought the point about the 13 episodes. Should this have been? Did they do the right call by splitting it into 2 movies? Would this have been better if it was one long ass movie?
This is their thing, though, right? The DC does this. They split random things into 2 parts, and in us kind of discussing this, I think it's part of the formula for them making money off this.
Yeah.
So it kind of is. I feel like it's kind of becoming apparent now that they split it into 2 parts. They sell 2 DVDs, they repackage it, and then you buy the 2, or they get content that's spread over whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like that. I think that's showing for us. So, you know, if you enjoyed this, that's great. If you enjoy these animations coming out and you watch every single one, that's awesome. But to me, with the cookie cutter animation, I'm going to say it a third time, and then they may put the money into the voice talent. It looks like that's where they went this time. And then they split into 2 parts. I feel like it's all like a money scheme, and then they figure out how to get their reviews jacked up really high. It's really bizarre. I think we'd have to like really examine it. But yeah, 2 parts, I definitely don't think so. I think it could have been sliced up into a more cohesive 1 hour 10-minute, 1 hour 20-minute thing to keep people interested. Or you would have to do 13 10 15-minute or maybe 20-minute max episodes, and go with the style from the book or something. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
It's interesting because you're right, John. You know, DC is known for the short answer is this: should this have been put into 2 movies? No, it definitely shouldn't have been. It should have been 1 movie, and it shouldn't have been a long
why?
movie. It should have been
weird.
an hour and a half, an hour and 45 at most. You can blow through it. You don't need to have a lot of these things. You could easily do panel swipes, you know, in animation style of the Father's Day, the Mother's Day, the April Fools. Like, you don't need to have 5 minutes on each quote unquote holiday. But it's interesting that you bring up this animation style. DC is known for doing the string of animated movies in one style, and then they move on to the next style of animated movies. This year alone, we've had Batman Soul the Dragon came out, which is somewhat similar to this animation, but cribbing this animation or being exact same was the Justice Society World War II, the one that we reviewed that one as well. And, you know, I look at that. That was
exactly the same. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly the same. In that movie, it was a one and done movie. It was an hour and 35 minutes, maybe, or an hour and a half. And it was a perfect, it gave the story all you wanted. Like, could you imagine if they made that one two movies? Oh my God, like, give me a break. So
yeah,
I think there is a place for DC animated movies. DC was, and I still think they are the king of animated movie, that they have. But all I have to say is you don't need to translate every IP, every story you have. And if, heaven forbid, they decide to make a Court of Owls, like page
they tried
to
several times.
I know, right, but they also made, Death Superman Returns 2 different times as well. But if they were to try to do it like page to screen, animate it like 2 movies long, I would even as
the TV show. Don't worry,
nobody counts that. It wouldn't do well. I think it needs to be like just the one movie.
People count
Death
that.
and Superman Returns.
Rob
Yeah.
Gadet at the underscore
do it.
90647 or 905 or whatever.
The Death and Return of Superman's warranted 2 movies. This does not. It should have just been the 1 movie. In and out.
Okay,
that's it.
John, do you have a Batman book that you'd like to recommend to the people at home that maybe don't want to watch this movie, or maybe if they dug this movie, they want to read more of it? Is there a book that you recommend for the people to catch? I know we did last time.
Yeah. So we've been a little harsh on this, but one of the great things about Batman and some of these characters is they have new stuff coming out every week. So there's like the character is always evolving. There's always new storylines. So it's kind of weird to see them dig up this thing from 1996. It's almost like you guys missed your chance, do something new. So I would highly recommend getting into some current Batman stuff. Batman Joker War was a lot of fun, which is in the current continuity. But I would recommend probably the Batman and Catwoman series by Tom King, because this had a lot of Batman and Catwoman in it. So you get Batman and Catwoman action. You also get a throwback to Mask of the Phantasm, which is the return of that character in this series. And the art is like fantastic. It's currently out in single issues and will eventually wrap up and be collected into a trade paperback, which I guess DC will maybe split into like, who knows, 3 or 4 parts and do an animation for it. Well, who knows? But I would recommend, if you're digging Batman and you're wondering why maybe we're a little bit hard on this one, read some of his newer stuff and you'll see that this character's always got things going on. So that's why there's so many things you can do with this character.
Rob, what Batman book do you recommend?
See, it's tough because we've recommended quite a few, and I think I might have recommended this one in the past. I know I've talked about it on my channel. But if you're looking for a book that is early Batman days to be comparable into that timeline, I'm going to go with Tom King's The War of Jokes and Riddles. I know that you can get it as a trade through the store. I think it's volume 4 of Tom King's run or whatever. But that is, his Batman's early days, and this is a battle between the Joker and the Riddler over turf, over who will control Gotham. And it is phenomenal. It is. I mean, say what you will about Tom King. He has a lot of hits and misses with his Batman run. This one, he nailed it and hit it out of the park. Art is by Clayman, I believe. And it's just an absolutely gorgeous looking book. It has all the characters that you see in this movie. You've got Poison Ivy. You've got everybody else playing an integral role in this early telling of a Batman story. Trying to bring peace between the Joker and the Riddler, and it's a phenomenal. So definitely pick up Batman: The War of Jokes and Riddles. I'm pretty sure John has it at the shop.
Yeah. So that's 2 recommendations of Tom King and Clayman working on Batman. So yeah, and those are current. This is brand new stuff. So
yeah, within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Awesome, John. Where can people find you on the internets and live in the real?
Yeah. So Heroes World Online is going to take you to basically all our internet presence, our Facebook. So Heroes World Online, all one word, will take you to it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, our actual full out website. So you can follow us there. New things getting posted every day almost. And if you follow that feed, you're going to be up to date, and you'll actually see updates for this type of stuff as well too. And if you're on the YouTube as well, Heroes World Online on YouTube, so basically everywhere. If you're listening to us on the audio, Heroes World podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, like all the major podcast services. So if you can't watch us on the video, you can listen to us on the go as you're traveling about, and then interact with us there. And then in the real world, we are located in Markham, Ontario. Directly in the northeast corner of Warden and Highway 7. So if you're comfortable coming to our physical location, we are fully stocked, got tons of fun stuff going on, and you can talk to us, experience shop talking in person. I've talked to a couple people recently who have watched the podcast and are enjoying. So thank you very much, people, for checking us out, and thank you everybody for sharing, liking, commenting, all that kind of fun stuff. So really appreciate it.
Rob, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can actually find John and I do the Heroes World Sidekick Show Monday live at 8:00 Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Tomorrow, though, John is taking the night off. He's heading out. He's deciding to spend.
I'm gonna watch my shirt.
He's going on a secret mission.
He's deciding to actually. He's going to watch part 1 and 2 of the Long Halloween back to back to see if it's really as bad as he remembers. So tomorrow it's myself and my buddy Stu here. We're gonna do like a mixed bag, a Batman utility belt of topics. We're also gonna be joined by a friend of the show, Tim Baradas, who is part of the Fight Insight podcast. So definitely tune in tomorrow as we talk about a whole bunch of different topics and shit. We're just gonna wrap. I
believe our topic tomorrow is romantic comedies from the 90s. John, unfortunately, you're gonna miss that one.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna miss that.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Never Been Kissed.
13 going on 30. You know,
Is How to Lose a Guy a 90s movie though? I don't.
We're gonna basically go through all the Marvel heroes and talk about all the movies that they've done and romantic comedy. Right. You know, not another teen movie with Chris Evans.
And how to incorporate it into the Marvel universe.
How do we go back and look at all these movies There's a couple Robert Downey Jr. romantic comedies from the 90s, early 90s that works really well. Heart and Soul, I think, is one that he did. So we're going to do a extensive deep dive on romantic comedies of the Marvel heroes past. Scarlett Johansson has a couple good ones in there too. So In Company.
Sorry you missed it, John.
It's
I know.
right in your wheelhouse.
Unfortunate.
We'll talk about Kate and Leopold, of course, the banger that is that with Hugh Jackman. And Saber.
You know what? Tomorrow night, the Sidekick Show, Stu and Tim will be together. I am out.
What? You're not gonna love Kate and Leopold? Come on.
No.
Anyways, there's a couple. There's Lindsay Lohan / movie. It was with who was it with? Chris Pine about some sort of Lucky movie or whatever that was on it too.
I forgot what that was called.
Just My Luck, I think.
No, I think that's an old song from the 90s too.
Anyways, comment below. Let us know if we're wrong. There's definitely a movie with Chris Pine.
I'm curious. Yeah, like
regardless, we're not talking.
What? There's a movie with Chris Pine, and he plays a guy who's very unlucky, and I think there's was it? And then
I think it is called Just My Luck.
Just My Luck. There we go.
Also a song from VIP back in the day, Canadian.
Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine, where she plays someone very lucky and Chris Pine plays someone who's unlucky, and then their paths cross, and then it switches. He becomes lucky and she becomes unlucky. It's like domino in real life. So what happens?
It's 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, folks. So take Stu's recommendation with a grain of salt here.
Yes.
I can't read that.
Chris Pine,
Heck P.
Can you read backwards, man? It says help me.
You write terrible.
Tim is on me, and then we're gonna talk about the Christmas universe with Tim as a special guest too.
No, we're not.
Hallmark Universe
the show's
breakdown
canceled tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Comment below, like, subscribe, support your local stores. Thank you all. Have a good one. See you all later.
Peace.